afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon.
Afternoon.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, you have books.
I do have books.
Nice.
I like my books.
I like it. Mine are mostly digital.
I have digital too. I've got a learning funnel that I do. And so I do 4-minute books. And if I think I can gain more information from that, I'll go do Get Abstract or Blinkist. And if I still want more information, I'll do Audible. And if I want a tangible piece of that information I can reference all the time, I'll get the physical book.
Okay, I'm going to pitch a book to you right now because I really found it fascinating.
Yeah.
It's about asymmetric winds.
Okay.
And the book is called The Super Upside Factor.
Awesome.
There's no Audible for it yet. The guy that wrote it is Daniel Shin Un Kang.
Okay.
I'll put that in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I found his idea really interesting because have you read any of Nicholas Taleb's work?
I don't believe I have.
He wrote Anti-Fragile.
I have not.
Oh, here. Okay, so here, some more book ideas for you.
Oh, I love it.
Just because you don't have enough. So Nicholas Taleb, he wrote Anti-Fragile. He also wrote Black Swan.
Okay.
He predicted one of the big economic collapses. He's an economist. He talks about asymmetrically negative events in Black Swan, and it's things that most people don't see the patterns of. This is going to be a problem.
Yeah,
right.
I like it.
And in Anti-Fragile, he's talking about how this idea of designing and building systems that get stronger through problems, like our human muscles work.
Yes.
Right. Like that's an easy analogy for us to get. Right. We go to the gym, we lift weights, tear our muscles down, they get stronger, as do our bones, as does our brain ultimately. This is all about how to have asymmetric winds and how to improve your surface of luck.
Okay.
To have those kinds of asymmetric winds.
Okay.
And it's new. I just heard about it, and I want to say I think it's a 2025 publication date. Yeah, copyright 2025. Yeah.
I'm curious. So I'm part of a book club. I get books every quarter. Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, I want to say Brene Brown, curate a set of books that they're reading or interested in. And so they get shipped to me every quarter. I wonder if this will be one of them.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to hunt for outlier kinds of content.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the edges of the bell curve.
Okay.
For me, it helps me, number one, understand the future better. You remember, oh God, what's the thing? Remember Crossing the Chasm, Jeffrey Moore? Yeah. I tend to think about, what's the stuff before the chasm, but also what's the stuff on the trailing end, because both of those I find very interesting in terms of behavioral patterns and non-standard learning perspectives.
Okay.
Right. There's another book called Scout Mindset.
Okay. You're giving me a list here.
What's that?
I said, you're giving me a list.
Yeah. Scout Mindset is a book about people who they don't want safety and certainty. They like they're more fueled by curiosity, and they like exploration more.
Yeah.
And their thought process is, it's a minority of the property, minority of the population, isn't normally talked about by behavioral scientists of whatever angle, because it's a subset of the population, and most research tends to look at the middle of the bell curve.
Yeah.
I tend to think about high performers.
Mm-hmm.
High performers are never in the middle of the bell curve.
Yeah.
And so I really want to know, like, what's possible, right?
Love it.
Cam Haines, David Goggins, those kind of guys. The woman, God, I can't remember her name. There's a woman who's another distance runner who's like insane. Like, she basically crushes the men repeatedly.
Yeah.
But she has no PR, so nobody knows her name. I can't remember what her name is, which is horrible. But she's another one.
Marathoner or something like that. Marathon runner.
Ultra marathoner, like 500-mile. Like she was. There was I think she was the first person to run 500 miles.
Wow.
And this was back when there was a book called Ultra Marathon Man by Dean Karnazes.
Okay.
And he was trying to be the first guy to run 500 miles, first person to run 500 miles. And she, with a support crew of her son and her husband, figured out a 1 mile lap around her town, around part of her town, and went out. I think it was 1 mile, maybe it was 10, but she went on and just did it with no fanfare.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that kind of thing, I'm like, how? Like, how does, like, I want to know more, right?
Yeah.
And so, because it's what's possible.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm very curious about what's possible rather than what everybody says is normal.
Well, what motivates that? That's where my curiosity is. What motivated her to do that?
Well, she was already an ultra marathoner, right? So ultra marathoners like going out and running, and some of them, like, are you familiar with Cameron Hanes?
The name sounds familiar, but tell me more.
He's a bow hunter.
Okay.
And he runs ultra marathons as training to go bow hunting.
Okay.
Because when he started bow hunting, the place that had the elk that he wanted to get was like 25 miles into the wilderness, and nobody went there. And so he was like, oh, if I want to go get an elk, A, I've got to get there, and that's a marathon. B, I've got to carry it back out. Right. So he started training for that kind of thing. And, he's 55, 58 now.
Okay.
Still runs 15, 20 miles a day. And shoots bow, and yeah.
But that's what motivated him.
Yeah. Totally what motivated him.
It wasn't just to run 25 miles. It was hunt an elk. Yeah.
It was a thing he needed to do to achieve this goal, which is be able to get to this place that has better elk available.
Right.
And Goggins does it just because I think part of it for him is reminding himself that he can do whatever he wants to. Okay. I think part of that kind of thing is escape.
Yeah.
Right. Because, like, if you're off on a 20-mile run, you're not checking your email.
Yeah.
And you're probably not talking to your significant other and your kids and your business partners. It's just you, and it's an enforced loneliness. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So cool. Well, that was a fun start.
Yeah.
And yes, we are in fact recording. Awesome. Thanks for doing this podcast with us. I appreciate it.
Sure.
The whole point is really just to get more leadership stories out in the world.
Yeah.
And partly selfishly, it's so that I can hear other people's experiences because I only get to experience my own life, and you haven't written a book yet.
I have not.
And so nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
So the one, I think I mentioned when we talked, I don't have a script other than one question.
Okay.
Which is, how did you get started in leadership? What was the, was it software engineering leadership, or did you like get lucky and start off, running a McDonald's or something?
Yeah, no, it was I played sports my entire life. And so I was led. I was coached. I, knew what it meant to be coached. Started early in my career at EDS, had a really great mentor boss that kind of I wanted to be like that eventually one of these days. Started in leadership. I was kind of young. I was an individual contributor, software architect, and we had this new role of a engineering manager, and I jumped into that, and I hated it. I wanted to find value in delivering software and writing software, not growing people. So I jumped out of that immediately, went back to IC role, joined another company as a tech lead, individual contributor, and the organization grew outside of what it possibly was. We had a director, he had like 30 reports. And so we introduced another role as an engineering manager. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to lead people. I didn't like it. And I had a colleague look at me and said, who do you want your boss to be? And I was just like, ooh, that's an interesting question, right? Like all these people are going to throw their hat in the ring for this role. Who do you want to report to out of all these people? And I kind of said, that's interesting. So long story short, jumped into leadership there and then really struggled to find that value. How do I provide value? I'm no longer taking Jira user stories. I'm no longer writing software. I'm no longer doing all that stuff. So that's where I defined value. How do I define value? How do I feel like I'm contributing? And so making everybody around me better was that next logical step. And I'd coached youth football and baseball for 10 years, baseball for 13 years. And I used to tell the kids, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And I'd have one question for them: how are you going to get better today? Like every practice, how are you going to get better today? And so I started thinking, applying those kind of logical, um, balance. How did I do it here? How do I do it here? And so I just started asking my team, hey, how are you going to get better? If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And then I found value in kind of doing that, and I fell in love with it. Watching young, whether they're an intern or somewhere young, I think my dog just walked in, or somebody who's been there, done that for so many years, and then helping them get over an obstacle or see that next level or something like that became very, very rewarding. And so I embraced it, and kind of it's been my passion ever since.
I like that. I like that. I especially like the abstraction of sports coaching into a completely different context.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes people get they can't take an idea from one place and move it someplace else and figure out how to adapt it.
Yeah.
Right. That totally makes sense. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And having the coaching, the sports coaching framework, it's a natural,
There should be more written about it. There's the $1 billion coach, which was I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Story. You what's his name? Bill something or other. Who was the Google coach or whatever. That's the only book I really know that's got some of those parallels where he takes a lot of the coaching aspect, but there should be more because the parallels are there, and my guys were teenage, 12 and 13-year-old boys, football, and then 12, 8 all the way up to 18 baseball kids, right? And so watching them grow and increasing their sports IQ, their baseball IQ was awesome.
Right. Yeah. And being able to do that effectively.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very cool. I think you're the first person I've interviewed that's really made that cross association.
Really?
That really talked about it that way.
Yeah.
In a very deliberate fashion. And you know, maybe it's because there's not that many people who spend any time coaching in sports, right? And that they're deliberate and they're thoughtful and they have a system.
Yeah.
Whether they
You have to have a
recognize it or
system.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have a system coach. I think a lot of dads, you know, professionals probably coach their kids' 7-year-old soccer team because the coach needs a hand and they're there handing out water bottles and things like that. But
yeah,
to coach football, there's a lot that goes into it. You practice every single day. I got paid zero. And every year I coached, they added a zero onto the end of it.
right.
It was out of passion and love. And, you know, my kids came through you can see the football helmets in the footballs in the background. Those are my, you know, two of my sons. They came through the program and ultimately went to high school and played. And so it was really rewarding to see them grow in that system.
Right. Yeah. My kids are water polo players.
Okay.
So and I did not coach them because I don't play water polo.
Yeah.
I was a swimmer, and that was kind of, you know, that's how we gatewayed them in. I didn't get introduced to water polo until I was in high school, which is way too late.
It seems like way too much energy.
Yeah. Oh, it is an awesome sport. I will say that.
Yeah.
But the mental models for how to play well, especially to be an integrated team of people, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And the funny thing was there was a out of our swim team, there was a boys water polo team and a girls water polo team. Most of the girls ended up being on the U.S. national junior women's team. Like, same coaches, right? Same coaches, same pool. The girls rocked it. The boys, like, we sucked. We were horrible, and we just could not. Like, we're just way too individualistic, and the girls were super team focused.
Yeah.
And they were ridiculously good, and I thought it was so funny, you know, like, weird that the coaches could not get the boys to even come close to the success the girls had. It was a riot.
That's a testament to that team mentality, right? That teamfulness, team mindset. You can do a lot more, do more together kind of mentality, right?
Right. Yeah. And the guys just never got it. You know, it was kind of funny. You know, it's like, okay. Different strokes, different folks, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, it was interesting. Very cool. When you think about your software teams, what kind of systems do you like? What kind of system structures do you use to help your software teams operate, get better, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm a firm believer in long-lived teams. When I joined my current company, we were doing project-based teams. So a pool of people, engineers, QA, product managers, who's available? Boom, 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 put them together. We've got a project, go spend 4 months together, and then you break up and then you do it all over again. So, and you go through that whole forming, storming, norming, performing aspect, and it's hard, right?
Yeah.
So I believe get a team together, and I want them to identify themselves, have a team name, you know, like almost like a sports team. You have a jersey, have a team name, have an identity. You know each other, know each other's roles, right? And so once you form that team, it's all about trust, right? So you build that trust. That's the foundation of everything. I believe in transparency. And so we used to have a concept back in the office. We were big and visible. We had 47, and this is one of my previous companies, 47-inch screen monitors all around. Every team had one or two.
Dang.
And we had dashboards and data and big and visible. If there was a problem, it
Mm-hmm.
had to be big and visible, right? I'm a firm believer in that even more now that we're kind of everybody's working remote after the pandemic.
Yeah.
You have to make things big and visible. You have to give people data and information, and otherwise they're going to fill in the blanks with assumption, and it's going to be negative. And so,
Right.
why are we
Right.
doing this? Oh, because of this. No, let me give you the information. So, trust, transparency, and then continuous learning, growth mindset, continuous learning. If you've got that transparency, you can give that feedback. You can be really kind of critical on some of that growth aspect, and then give them the time and the tools to learn and
Mm-hmm.
grow and develop. And I think, not getting any kind of specific SDLCs or sprints or agile or Kanban, like that foundational culture of a team, I think is what has worked for me in the past, and it's working for me right now.
Nice. Are you guys agile?
We're agile, yeah. So
Okay.
we were doing 2 week sprints, scrum based.
Yeah.
I've evolved the process in the 2.5 years I've been here. I want to get rid of sprints. I don't like them. I'd rather do Kanban. I'd rather just focus on the most important things, get them done as quickly as possible, and create business value a lot faster. So we're doing things a lot faster now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm throwing away a lot of the structure that's been in place for some time.
Nice. Yeah. Improvement. That's kind of the whole
Yeah.
point, right?
Continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. How do you develop and nurture? How many people do you have right now?
I want to say just about 20,
Okay.
20 engineers, small
I'm
team.
guessing you've got team leads in there.
I've got 2 team leads. Yeah. 2 engineering managers.
How do you develop them?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we did in a previous job is we like almost like mini TED Talks. We call them great talks. It was at a company called Gale. So we call them great talks as engineering leadership,
Hmm.
technology leadership, our QA leadership. Um, and it's really peer-based training. And the rule was you can talk about anything you love. And it was kind of a two-edged sword. It built trust, it built psychological safety within that leadership team. It taught presentation skills, how to be a public speaker,
Nice.
and it gave us good content, right, to learn about stuff. So
Yeah.
we did things on like emotional intelligence, uh, developing, different ways of software development. Somebody did something on digital photography, how to be a good digital photographer. So I've kind of carried that over. We call it lessons in leadership. And it's
Hmm.
not just the engineering leadership. I'm part of a group called Technology and Product Management. So it's engineering, it's IT, it's product management, it's our sales ops, it's all leadership. And every three
Nice.
weeks we get together and do an hour-long session where somebody presents to the group, and we just rotate every 3 weeks. We rotate who's going to do it. And it's
Nice.
been outstanding. And you've seen a lot of growth in our leaders.
Nice. Nice. I like that deliberate practice is such a valuable tool, and you can contextualize it in a bunch of different ways. And what you're describing is exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish I saw more of that out in the world. Um, yeah.
It's
Okay.
hard. It's hard. You've got to make the time for it, right? And I
Right.
think that's
Right.
where if you're going to be a continuous learning, continuous improving organization, you've got to make the time. So
Right.
we
Right.
carve out every Wednesday, we carve out 2 hours. Basically, we give a company hour and we say, and if we'll give you an hour if you'll give us your lunch hour. So
Sure.
it's basically 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock every Wednesday. The
Hmm.
entire TPM group has a block there, so people aren't stepping over each other. And we take the time to do that every 3 weeks. We also do with my engineering team, I'm doing a book club. I think I might have mentioned that when we spoke before. Um, Starting in January, we went through clean code together every week. We'd read a chapter and then we discuss it as a group. We
Hmm.
took June off for some summer break. and now we're doing pragmatic programmer.
Okay.
Going through
Yeah.
every chapter every week and talk about, code quality, code software craftsmanship. Now we're really talking about professional behavior and how do I grow as a developer. So that's been great as well.
Awesome. That's good. Yeah, that's really good role modeling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
No, it really is. I always think a lot about systems, role modeling, and how do you scale things up.
Yeah.
And because one of the negative lessons that I had when I was early to leadership was one of my mentors who had really good philosophical perspectives, but didn't know how to explain how to execute them. They had a high degree of unconscious competency.
Yeah.
And when it's unconscious competency, you don't know how to explain what you're doing.
Right.
And I really appreciate the philosophy, but the lack of how,
yeah,
super frustrating. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, sounds great, but I don't know how to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so now everything I think about is, okay, how do you make that happen? Right. Like in a way that everybody can do it. Right. And I always use very simple models that other people can, for context, people can wrap their heads around. Like, everybody learns how to do math.
Yep.
Right? I can ask anybody what's 7 times 3.
Yep.
And they're all going to say 21.
21. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. If you said 23, I'd be like, wait a minute, where'd you go to school?
Yeah.
But that's because we have a system now for math that everybody gets the exact same thing. And no matter how high you get, we all start with counting single digit numbers.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's always the same. And so I tend to think of everything systematically as like, that's the gold standard, right? If I can break this down enough that anybody can learn the steps, and I struggled to memorize multiplication tables when I was a kid, right? I needed special attention from my teacher and I was the last kid in my class to memorize the whole thing.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I don't know why, but geometry was super easy. Like, I don't know why I couldn't memorize multiplication, but I could do geometry like it's nothing, but when you have the system, then just like everything else, you can learn all the pieces. And yes, people are going to struggle in different areas, but it's the same language all the way through.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and it's repeatable, right? I mean,
exactly.
that's what you want is you want something repeatable, and it doesn't have to be so rigid that you can't change it, but you have to have a repeatable system. You have to.
Right. And it's all that, it's the foundational pieces, right?
Yep.
Like code reviews, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does code reviews. That's a foundational principle in software building, right?
Yep.
I don't know anybody I've never heard anybody say we don't do code reviews because we don't need them. Like, if I heard that, I'd be like, really?
Yeah. I was trying to think of code reviews. So we do them now. We do code reviews in our PRs and all that.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was at one of my previous companies. I was there for 13 years. It was an ed tech company. We were really into TDD, and we were into pair programming. So this is 15-ish years ago. And we hired test-driven developers, right? Specifically for that. And we did a lot of pair programming. And so at that point, when you've got two people working on the same problem together, and you're test driving, so you know that your code is really well tested. You know that we practiced refactoring a lot, so you know it was really good, high quality code. We had a lot of gates in place so that when we checked something in, we had continuous deployment. If nothing broke, really, what was the need for a code review at that point in time?
So that's a really interesting use case. I like that. Yeah. Okay. I will add that to this is how you don't have to do code review. Yes, you can get away with not doing code reviews.
Yeah. I mean, there were times where you'd have architectural reviews or you'd have implementation reviews where, hey, I'm wiring all these things together. Can someone take a look at what we as a pair are working on to
Hmm.
make sure it's within, boundaries, right? Things like
Right.
that. But like not pure code review where somebody's looking for duplication and is it readable enough? It just was because you had two people working on it together.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a good, that's a good use case. And I'm the only time I can think of not, of ever not having code reviews was super early startup days of a company that I was at where there
Yeah.
was nobody else writing code.
Yeah.
It was only me, and like
Yeah.
I would,
That's kind of scary, right?
oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. Um, and I don't recommend that. I
Yeah.
recommend you got someone else there who can look through your stuff and go, yeah, this, why did you do it this way?
Well, what's your thought on that changing now with all the Gen AI tools available?
Um, I'm not sold on AI yet
Yeah. Okay.
because there's so many. Number one, it hallucinates,
Yeah.
which terrifies me.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm and the other thing is it gets stuff wrong.
It does.
I don't. I would hate to be writing something. AI says, "Oh yeah, this is all good." Gets it wrong. It goes live, and something doesn't work, and like that. The It's not reliable enough yet.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
We're,
like self-driving cars. I'm probably not going to get into one for a while.
yeah,
Um,
because software has bugs.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and there's, because San Francisco has had a bunch of testing done there. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of companies that are headquartered in there, and so they've got all these self-driving cars causing accidents,
Yeah.
and traffic problems
Hmm.
because they don't handle corner cases very well, and there's a lot of they're not really corner cases, right? They're actually very common things that happen, and the system can't handle it.
Yeah.
You know, and they actually for a while had a moratorium on self-driving cars in the city
Is
because
that right?
they had so many problems. They were like, okay, forget it. You can't do this anymore. We're revoking all of the permissions, whatever it was they were doing. They were like, no more. We
Hmm.
can't hack it. And it was mostly because they would stop in the middle of the road and or in the middle of an intersection until
Yeah.
a tow truck came and picked them up. And
Uncaught exception. I don't know what to do. Right?
exactly, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to think like, what's the worst case scenario, which we've seen happen is cars that they get in a problem and then they lock all the doors and you can't get out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I'm grateful that my teams aren't writing software for that.
exactly. Right. Or you don't have to go and test it, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
I'm this is one of those bell curve things. I'm on the trailing end of the bell curve around cars, because I don't want a catastrophic failure in a vehicle
Hmm.
that I can't do anything about.
Right.
Like steering by wire in the new Teslas. I'm like, if that quit working, there's no mechanical connection from the steering wheel to those things out on the corners. Like if my power steering goes out on my car, I can still fight the wheel around and make it
A little bit.
go,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but if it's all electronic, then I'm hosed.
Yeah.
And so um, I've got a 1999 truck, a 97 SUV, and a 2002 commuter vehicle.
All gas powered, I'm assuming.
Two gas, one diesel.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just because I know they're going to work.
Yeah.
And if something fails, I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
Nor will anybody else in the car with me.
Right.
You can always unlock the doors and get out. And I always think about product like that. And I think part of what's, back to the AI thing, I always think about like, what's the benefit of AI? Like, why do I want the AI? What's the big help? And about 2 minutes after I think, oh, it's a labor saving device, I start to wonder if that's actually beneficial. And what's the cost? What's the unintended consequence?
I look at it as more of a productivity tool. And so I remember I told my team this, obviously dating myself. I was writing Java code professionally, version 1.1, and
Mm-hmm.
you're looking up Javadoc, and you had a local HTML thing on your browser that you had to go look up syntax. We didn't have autocomplete at that point.
Right, right.
And then I do remember autocomplete coming in, and I thought, well, this is great. Like this is such a lifesaver. And then you had IDEs like IntelliJ or Eclipse that you now had all these shortcut keys and templates that you could build. And
Yep.
with a couple keystrokes, code was just popping up everywhere. I
Right, right.
look at some of like the tools like the GitHub Copilot and some of the other embeddable tools. It's at this point in time, it's a productivity tool. It's not going to write the code for you. It shouldn't write the code for you. It should help you write the code. You know the problem. You should write the code. It's going to help you write it faster,
Right.
potentially help you write it more testable, more decoupled, all these things, less complex, all the things
Mm-hmm.
we want, and then have a human person do that code review and the PR afterwards. And I think that's how we're looking at it and embracing it at GSTV.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's one of those things where I think being conservative on your approach is probably a better long-term perspective. Um, I get nervous when I read studies where they're saying people that are using AI a lot are not as good critical thinkers.
Hmm.
It's kind of like uh, because of GPS, people aren't as good at figuring out, like actually reading a real map
Yeah.
and figuring out how to get from here to there, right? Or even having the logic of, oh, wait a minute, GPS is down and the road is blocked. How do I get where I want to go?
Yeah.
How can I think through rather than just sitting here in my parked car waiting for something to work? And so it's that trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Um, with I just read an article on eating and health, comparing people in France to people in America,
Hmm.
and how technically they eat much, much worse, but their health markers are so much better. And they're like, well, what are the differences behaviorally, right? And one of the differences is that in France, when you go to the grocery store, there's almost no processed food, and
Mm.
they're very much local, small farm to grocery store to table, and so they don't do processed food, and they eat a lot slower, and so their portion control is easy because your brain has time to go, oh, wait a minute, I've eaten enough food,
Stop.
because their eating process is so slow.
Yeah.
um, and so they eat less volume, even though it's exorbitantly rich compared to what we're used to historically. um, Maybe the rise of processed food and giant farms is not so good for us,
Yeah.
and
I,
labor
I,
saving, but you
yeah.
know yeah.
I believe that. I think a lot of I don't know this to be true in France or whatever, but I know a lot of European countries they're walking more as well.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
bikes, they're walking, they're not driving everywhere. And I think
Right.
with urban sprawl, we've gotten to a point where you have to drive to get to where you want to get to, as opposed to just living in small little towns that you walk everywhere.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well, you
I
have
think
to be,
there's a lot
yeah.
to do with that as well.
Yeah. I think it's also if you purposely say, okay, it's worthwhile to, like, I bicycle a lot.
Hmm.
So for me, I'm like, I'm going to bicycle to the grocery store. And if I need to carry more than my backpack, I've got a trailer I can pull behind my bicycle if I'm like, I need a ton of groceries. Um, and then that's a critical thinking, clicking through the process to say, oh, I have the time. I've got the technology,
Yeah.
a bicycle, right?
Yep.
Um, and I know how to get there and back without getting hit by a car.
And without using your GPS.
Without using the GPS, exactly. I know how to get there without looking at my phone. That's the important part. But you have to work through the cost benefit analysis and go, oh yeah, it's worthwhile in the grand scheme of the world for me to go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Shy people. How do you be, so technology historically tends to be um, skewed towards more shy, introverted kinds of people.
Introvert. Yeah, absolutely.
How do you get them to be consistent contributors?
Give them the time they need to think about something. So I know a lot of extroverts. Um, what's Susan Cain's book, Quiet? She's got it's a really good book. If you haven't read that one, all about the power of introverts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I know somebody's an extrovert and I want to get something out of them real quick, I'll say, hey, I'll put them on the spot. What do you think of this? And they'll give me an answer. If I know someone's an introvert, I'll say, hey, here's a lot of context. Here's why I'm asking it. Can you think about this? And let's have a conversation tomorrow afternoon. And it gives them the time they need to really put some thought into what you're asking. It doesn't stress them out so much that they feel like they're being put on the spot. And it's been really great to give them, they feel like they're contributing, they feel like they're being valued for their opinion, as opposed to if you put them on the spot in a meeting, they're going to shut down and it's going to stress them out and they're not going to really want to contribute.
Cool. I like that. Okay. I've had a very different approach. That's interesting that you do it that way.
Yeah. What's your
Yeah.
approach?
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of building psychological safety.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that's kind of like always been my number one priority.
Yeah.
And so um, one-on-ones, getting them to be comfortable and relaxed with me. So patience is a key part of this, right? Getting them to be comfortable and relaxed in one-on-ones first. Encourage them in one-on-ones to speak up in the team meetings. There's always framing content before any kind of team meeting that we're going to be talking about anything.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody's getting surprised in there. It's always like, oh, this is all the stuff easy to talk about. We've been talking about it in Slack, whatever, right? And asking them what their thoughts are in the meetings. And I've even gone so far as to ask the extroverts to not talk in meetings.
Yeah.
And I explain that as I'd really like to hear more from these people. And you're super smart, but you tend to like answer the question and people just look to you for the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd really like it if you could wait, because I really want to give these other people space and time, repeatedly opportunities And so far that's worked pretty well.
Yeah.
It takes time. Like I can't be impatient about that. It's usually a few months, and then the formerly shy people are like, they've had enough reps, and they've, back to psychological safety, they feel safe enough that they'll just start talking about stuff. And that's worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
We're definitely doing the everybody understands the context, just like you are.
Yeah.
And I try very hard to make sure that there's always that contextual understanding. And I kind of Gallup surveys. One of the things they talk about regularly is people not understanding the full business context of the work they're doing. And so I tend to always make sure the team understands why this thing that we're building is important to whoever the stakeholders are.
Yep.
Paying customers, internal ops team, whatever it happens to be, right? So they don't have any question about the value.
Yeah.
And that means that the shy people always know, as well as everybody else does, but why we're doing this, because that's kind of table stakes for me.
I agree.
Is having that understanding. And the other part of it is that I always have the team leads. I realized that back channel knowledge is, and one of the company founder years ago actually pointed me in this direction, is that the team leads get better back channel knowledge than goes through the official path. And so I started, and now, and then every team lead that I ever had that worked for me, I got conversations going like every week or every few weeks with folks in other departments of the company, to understand their world better. Because what I discovered was the problems that in like sales or marketing or customer support didn't make it through the executive channels and back down to me. And so, we never knew to like have a story and go figure out how to solve that problem, right? Until when I started talking to them directly, all of a sudden I started hearing about things where they're like, oh, we've got 17 prospects that all want this feature that we don't have.
Yeah.
How hard would it be to do that, right? Like, let me talk to the team. I don't think it'd be that hard.
Right.
But, if you've got 17 prospects that are all looking for it, there's probably another 50 that we don't even know about, who don't even get to the point of talking to somebody because they don't see that as a feature in our featured list. And they're like, nope, not my solution provider. Right.
Right.
And so I found a huge amount of benefit. And, I used to have really bad social anxiety. So I had to work through that first. Another system, I built a system to get through that. But I found that to be super helpful. And it pretty much got rid of my reliance on executives knowing what was going on in the rest of the company and communicating effectively.
Yeah.
Right. I would hear, oh, the executive team wants blah, blah, blah for whatever reason, from a strategic perspective, they want whatever it is they want. But on a tactical level, I got way better intel because I was talking to people, right? And I saw that with all the other team leads. Once they start doing that, all of a sudden they're like, hey, I just learned blah, blah, blah,
Well, what's interesting, we kind of do the same thing. We don't really have a lot of our internal teams are our customer, right? We're building for GSTV, right? We don't have a user interface. We're not e-commerce. we're delivering media
Right.
to gas stations, convenience stores.
Yep.
And so the advertisers are our paying customer, but we're building systems and tools for our internal teams to be more efficient and more effective, to sell better, to process better. So we're talking to them all the time.
Nice.
And a lot of times they're coming to me, hey, can you guys do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
They're coming with these solutions, and I like to push back a little bit and say, well, sure, but what problem are you really trying to solve? Let's talk
Right.
about the problem, right? That's a possible solution. Maybe you have one. And I say, oh, you know what? This other group is having a similar problem they're trying to solve. And then you start working through
Yeah.
those systemic problems. How can we solve these together in a single way that can solve more problems than one?
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. That's good that you've already got that internal customer mindset.
Yeah, our product team does a really great job with all those folks. And
Yeah.
the way we're organized is really it's based off of a book called Team Topologies. They call them stream-aligned teams. We've got really a flywheel that gives us momentum. And we've got teams that are aligned to the strategic portions of the flywheel that keep it moving. And we've got product folks that are aligned there, and then those line up with smaller teams within the organization that they're working with all the time. How can we be faster? How can we be better? How can we grow? How can we scale? All this kind of stuff. So I think that alignment, it reduces cognitive load for the team, so they're not focused on all the problems.
Right.
But it really has direct alignment with business results, business value, and really helps to drive that momentum.
Yeah. And if you've got long-term teams, then there's a consistency there, which totally makes sense. You know, if you were going to do that and have teams that were just torn down and then recreated based on a project.
Oh, the thrashing,
You'd be thrashing.
The chaos. Yeah.
It would be nuts. Yeah. And you also you'd lose institutional knowledge.
Right.
You know, because Mary's with this team, she knows a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Then you tear that down and she's over a completely different part of the business. Nobody knows what she knows in the back of her head.
Right.
And the next team that's over here is like, you know, and nobody writes enough documentation to get around that problem.
Well, even the time to consume that information, the onboarding time, you're creating this lead time to deliver value. I want to deliver value quickly, as quickly as possible, right? And so, very, very intentional design to do it that way.
Yeah, I think you've now multiple times talked about deliver value quickly, and I think that is a non-standard mental model. You're like out on the periphery of the bell curve.
Really?
Yeah, because most people don't say that explicitly. Like,
that's our job, though. That's what companies are paying engineering teams to deliver value.
I completely 100% agree with that. But if nobody says it, then there's some other mental model driving people, right? And usually they don't recognize that, right? It's we have all these mental models. People, and this is, you know, part of the stuff that I do all the time is, what's the mental models, right? And because people don't do the self-analysis and go, okay, my mental model in this context is X, it's a self-awareness problem, right? They don't go look around for, well, what's the mental model of somebody who has a different experience in this context, right? And for, I don't know what got me started, but pretty young, like college-ish, I started looking for different mental models.
Okay.
In different contexts, right? And so, because I realized that you know, it's your beliefs, right?
Like,
And so if you recognize that you're limited, or you might not even know that in a particular area, a different set of beliefs gets a radically different outcome.
Yeah.
Football trainers. What was the guy's name? There was a guy who he was super strong, played football, was like insanely strong, but never
Okay.
had like super like amazing playing results. And when he got out of football, he started researching why people who weren't nearly as strong had great results. And he started this training program with people where they were using like training barefoot with these weird off slant boards.
Okay.
And he started putting out people that were record breakers. He saw the world from a very different perspective.
Yeah.
Right. And he completely changed his mental models along the way. And I still see his work get referenced by people in the martial and BJJ community.
Okay.
But he was all about balance and coordination. Like once he realized that strength wasn't it was balance and coordination and agility.
Yeah.
That he started to really focus on. And a lot of that, and I'm actually seeing this in regular weightlifting now, people that are doing the knees over toes guy. Have you seen him?
No.
Knees over toes guy's got a really good training regimen to number one, prevent injury, but number two, to rehab for knees and ankles.
Okay.
And he's a guy who played basketball and had a bunch of really bad knee injuries, and then started trying to figure out, how do I PT my way out of this? And he jumps really, really well now.
Yeah.
And he's over 30.
Well, I mean, you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady played.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. And his TB12 methodologies is all about pliability. His pliability is the key to longevity, right? And And so, yeah. Now I feel like I have to go stretch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yoga class is in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be there. Yeah, you'll be working your pelvis.
We taking this all the way back to, I talked about the TED Talks, the great talks, the lessons in leadership talks.
Yeah.
One of our colleagues years and years and years ago, he did a talk on, it's called Brain Rules. It was all these 10 brain rules, and one of the rules were exercise made you smarter. And they did tests, right? Taking a test on a treadmill, taking a test in a seat. The treadmillers always got it better. And so we had this idea of, hey, let's exercise in the office. Again, all pre-pandemic. We brought in stability balls, and we ended up doing something called a 3 o'clock stretch. And if anybody listens to this and hears this and participated in it, every day at 3 o'clock, we did a 15-minute stretch. Teams did it separately, and then after years of doing it, we'd all come together and do it. We had a yoga instructor come in that worked with us. She was in the marketing or sales department, and she would lead a little yoga session every day at 3 o'clock. We did it for years. We had a local conference in Detroit, and there were probably 700 people there, and they did a 3 o'clock stretch. Probably 500 people participated in this 3 o'clock stretch. It was pretty cool. It's something that, one of the things I miss the most about being in the office is that kind of group participation and some just kind of fun that stuck. So
yeah. That's it's funny, that's another reason why I think companies that are having these mandatory back to office things is other people are like, oh, I miss this bonding experience, because it's really hard to bond when you're behind a screen, right? Oxytocin doesn't work the same in a virtual environment. But the other part of it, and I just interviewed somebody earlier this week who was talking about serendipity conversations that he used to have in a real office that he can't have now. And so he's really trying hard to find ways to foster that. and it kind of goes back to that whole asymmetric wins.
Yeah.
Is those serendipitous conversations give you an asymmetric win, and how do you optimize to make that more available? And he's like, well, I like everything I can possibly do to get myself into places where I can hear conversations. He likes Slack because he can go read stuff that's old.
Public Slack channels. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
public
problem
Slack
is
channels. Yeah,
the problem is the teams have a public channel and then they have a private channel.
right,
And all the
right.
good stuff's in the private channel.
Yeah, yeah. And
Right?
so, I mean, like, there's been a bunch of times when I've overheard sales, marketing, operations conversations. I wasn't part of it, but because we had an open floor plan, they're
Yeah.
talking about a problem or even finance. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hang on.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, can I join your conversation? Because we might be able to solve this for you.
Yeah.
And I can't do this,
Right.
nor can you, because they're not there next to you,
Yeah. The accidental collisions.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've we've over indexed on the work from home thing, because people aren't talking enough about the upsides of being in the office, and why that's valuable and how it helps engagement.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah.
I remember starting out early in my career, I couldn't have become who I've become without those exemplar people that I was exposed to all the time.
Right.
My youngest son, he's doing IT support and he's not doing it from home. He's in the office 5 days a week, and I'm glad he is
Yep.
because now he's surrounded by professionals and he's seeing, things like that. So I do feel sorry for some of those folks. There needs to be something there for the younger people to see in the
Yeah.
experience of the folks that have been around and learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a little afraid that until there's a lot of conversation about the benefit of everybody being in the building,
Yeah.
that the loud voices are the ones saying, no, I want to work from home. I don't want an hour commute to the office. Okay, so go in 3 days a week. But there's got to be some compromise point, because otherwise, sooner or later, if you don't have those beneficial collisions,
Yeah.
I think there's a business strategic downgrade.
We're talking about coming into the office to meet, not coming into the office to code. And that's a big difference,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I don't want people to come into the office, drive that hour, put headphones on and sit down and try not to be distracted.
Right.
I want them very deliberately. We're going to have our monthly all hands meeting. We're going to have our book club meeting together. We're going to have team building activities. Like,
Nice.
come in for that.
Yeah.
And then go home and spend a couple weeks coding.
Yep.
And then how frequent that is going to change, but it's recharging to come together and do stuff, right? But we have to come together and have a schedule of things doing together as opposed to coming into the office and do things separately.
Right. Yeah, I think that's good, and it answers that question of what's the benefit.
That's the benefit. It's
Yeah,
the recharge
yeah.
of building, bonds together. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think you should write a LinkedIn post about that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I'll consider it.
Yeah, just because it doesn't get said often enough.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it's when I've had fully remote teams, I've done everything I could think of to do to get conversations with, like, I tried as hard as I could to manufacture serendipity.
Yeah.
And talk to people and, invite people as optionals to meetings that I thought might be interesting for them. And, and I was always trying to talk to other people in the business to figure out what was going on with them, because I knew that sooner or later one of those conversations was going to spark, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And not everybody does that. When I was at Google, like, nobody did that. Everybody was very like, this is my job. And, because it's a big company, right? And I don't know if it was people were afraid to go outside of their box, or kind of like what it was. But I just didn't, like, I was talking, because of the project I was on, I was talking to people all over the place.
Yeah.
And almost always I would talk to people and they'd be like, yeah, all I know is this little thing, like, if it's not in this little thing, I have no clue. And maybe that's why they just had a huge layoff. Because, is because if you can only do this thing, you're not as valuable as we really want. And if you get that thing super quantified, there's an AI that can replace you.
Right.
And
I think this is where it comes in. You're a problem solver. I can tell. You look for problems. You look for problems. You're curious about problems, and maybe you're not the one solving it, but you've got a team, or
Oh yeah,
totally. Invite these guys. This would be an interesting problem for these folks. Come together and let's solve it together.
Right.
I think I'm the same way. I love hearing about problems. I love trying to solve a problem. I may not be able to do it, but I'm interested in it, right?
Yeah.
This is with anything. I think it takes people like that to be courageous enough to go sit down next to somebody and say, "Hey, how's it going? What's keeping you up at night?" Right? Let's talk about some of the friction in your life and ways to kind of eliminate some of that, right?
Right. Yeah, we need to build more curious problem finders.
I went through a whole phase years ago about questioning. I read a couple books. Good Leaders Ask Great Questions and A More Beautiful Question. I read those two books almost back and forth. I had them, and when we're kids, we're so inquisitive. We're always asking why and why and why, and then you get to school and they teach you to stop asking questions and they want you to start answering questions. And then we get to work, our profession, and they're like, okay, here's what the executives want you to do. Here's your project, go do it. And don't ask why, right? And I want to ask why. I want to encourage my people to ask why. Be curious, ask questions, understand, and no question's a bad question, right? Kind of sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's mad props to you for doing that, because it's because it doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah.
And that's the second thing you should write about. I'm working towards getting you to write a book.
Yeah.
Different chapters you're gonna do in the process.
Yeah.
But no, because if you're not encouraged to be curious and to ask questions and to go look for problems, even if you can't solve the problem, right? Like, my frame is, I tend to err on the side of, I'll hear the problem, I'll bring the problem to the team. Even if I think I know how to solve the problem, I really want them to solve it.
Right.
Because I want their self-confidence to go up.
Right.
Right. I've solved a bunch of problems. I want them to be more and more and more self-confident and trusting themselves and each other. And so I'm just gonna like keep my mouth shut and go, here's the problem.
Yeah. Well, it's a muscle. It's a muscle.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
exercising that muscle, right?
Yeah. And I want them to get used to not looking to the team lead for how to solve the problem.
Right.
You know, it's kind of a different version of, I want it to not always be the extrovert on the team that comes up with the architectural design.
Right.
Because I want the shy person to get used to, because more times than not, it turns out that the smartest person on the team is the shyest. And when they start going, somebody else who's more extroverted will go, oh my God, I designed this thing over there. We now have a technical debt we have to go fix.
Right.
Because I wasn't smart enough to think about how to do this really, really well, you know?
Yep.
And so I'm always trying to err on the side of build confidence, build that muscle, that problem-solving muscle, and operate super effectively without my direct input.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, and it gets back to establishing a team.
Yeah.
Based on trust, give psychological safety, and then and only then can they be curious. And because otherwise, maybe you feel like you look like a fool, or you feel like you look dumb, you want to be able to do that.
Yeah. No criticism.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the, one of the ground rules. There's no bad ideas, and someone may say something that at first sounds really silly, but then someone else might riff on it. And that was actually the seed that the other person needed to hear.
Yeah.
To go, oh, wait a minute, and then everybody else goes like, oh, and it's kind of like it's like improv theater.
It's improv. We actually did that. We had a whole exercise we brought into the team years ago, and an improv person come in and walk us through that. Yes, and
exactly.
on people's ideas. Yeah. It was super valuable. Yeah, super valuable.
I think that's such a good model.
Yeah.
That yes and. Because it's one more lever to get rid of that fear that people have when they come in, and it builds psychological safety. And at the end of the day, the better that is, the better the team operates.
Absolutely.
That's the big game.
Yep.
Cool. I just looked at the time and realized, oh my God, we went way over our hour. I'm sorry.
Right. No, we're good. Good conversation.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Could I get you on the show again in the future?
Yeah, anytime.
Okay, that's cool. Good. Awesome. That's great. Very cool. This has been super helpful. We're like 2 weeks out on stuff going live. When it's ready to drop, I'll let you know. I'll give you all the URLs for it, all that junk. In the podcast, in the notes, is it okay if I put your LinkedIn profile in there?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And that way people can contact you on LinkedIn, and that's super easy.
Perfect.
Okay. This has been great.
Awesome. Thanks. I agree. Thanks, Bill. It's been fun.
Yeah, this has been very cool. I like what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. Have a good one. Thanks, man.
Talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.